tuned until the end and see how this project ended up being a failure and why. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, as that will help grow my channel. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd appreciate that as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave those and I will respond. Again, thank you. You may remember this piece of wood from one of the video shorts I did. This was some of the mystery wood that was given to me. This was a crotch piece. I did find out who gave it to me. Thank you, Daryl. And it's apple. I like turning apple. It's wet. But we're going to turn a bowl, and it's going to be out of this crotch piece, and you can see there the markings that I've got planned for this. So because it's wet, this bowl will move as it dries. But I think given the shape of the bowl with this little notch here, I think the fact that it goes out of round is fine. The only concern I have is this split right here. So again, this was a tree, two branches coming out this way. They would move with the wind and they end up causing this crack. So I will have to do a repair to that as I go, but I think I'll be able to do that with CA glue and coffee. I think there's bark in it too. So, but it doesn't come all the way through, so we'll see as we turn it. I've got a flat surface here. I'm going to put a faceplate on it. That'll help hold that together. We'll shape the bottom and then we'll see where we go from there. Surprisingly, I can get 300 RPM on this, so that's quite a bit more than what I expected. Again, it's not a heavy piece, so that explains why I can turn it so out of balance. The other thing is it may not be out as balanced as it seems, because you got weight here and weight here, so it's kind of like a tricorn. So it may not be as out of balance as you think. But we'll go about making it round. Now, with apple, especially with this crack, I'm going to wear my face shield. Two reasons. One, it does have a crack, but I think it's going to hold together, especially with all the screws I put in it. Secondly, when you turn apple, I don't know if you can see on my back wall here, but when you turn wet wood, especially apple, the juice will run right out of it. It smells just like apple juice, and it will throw it. You'll see it coming right out of it as a liquid. Now this piece has been split open. It's dried for a couple weeks, so it's down to like 25% moisture as opposed to 50, so it may not throw quite as much juice. If I had to turn this purely green right from the tree, cut it open right away, there would have been apple juice all up my wall and across my ceiling. So here you can see I've got it mounted on the lathe and I'm working the bottom, shaping it. I'm going to cut a tenon and I'm just removing that bark and continuing to make it round. I am going to take my saw and cut this branch off. There's no need of beating my tool up to try and get that branch off. I may as well just cut it off. Here I am shaping the outside. I'm eventually going to cut a tenon on the bottom of this. At this point I'm removing mostly bark, so it's cutting fairly easily, and you can see the shavings coming off. It's cutting well. You also notice here that the tool is way out. It seems like it's away from the bowl. I've talked about this before, but that's a ghost. Those pieces of the crotch are way out there, but you don't see them when they're spinning because they're not solid at this point. Here you get a better view. I'm actually cutting the outside of the bowl here at this point, even though it doesn't look it. So you do have to be careful when you're making this kind of cut. So the bottom of the bowl is pretty well shaped now. It's wet, so it's hard to get a real smooth finish, but I'll come back with my negative rake scraper and try and clean these lines up a little bit before I start sanding. I put some CA glue in this spot here because I want to maintain that bark. I've got a little tiny piece missing here. I may fill that in. And I also have a crack running down through here. I put some CA glue in that to hold it. And eventually I'll fill that with some coffee just to make it flush with the surface, although it's pretty good now. I do have a crack in my tenon. Typically don't like to see a crack in my tenon, but being a tenon, it'll be under compression. That's a lot better than a mortise, which would be under expansion. And I think I'm going to be able to save this bark as well. I put some glue on it. That's what you see there, the white. But when I hollow that out, that will disappear. But I'll maintain a little strip of bark there. So I'm liking the shape. It's going to be a nice live edge. This will disappear because as I hollow out, that's going to come down. Clean that up, but it's in pretty good shape. A little bit of sanding, and then I'll flip it around. A crack. Well, fortunately, I had tailstock engaged. It was in the chuck. I'm surprised because in the chuck, again, it's compressive strength, but it did crack on me. And this is the reason why. So there was nothing in there. That was rotted right straight through. So I don't think there was any way I could have saved this. I was half debating on gluing it back together, trying to save it. It did chip a little bit out on this corner here. So I don't think this piece is going to be savable. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you turn a bowl and you take a chance. This was, especially on a figured piece of wood like this, crotch piece, I was hoping to get something out of it. But unfortunately, this is going to be a piece of firewood.